Well, hello and welcome to episode 227 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, back in our teenage days, there was this slew of like teenage slasher films that were coming out. I think we were like 15 years old when a certain film came out called I Know What You Did Last Summer. And it was a pretty big deal, right? It had like all of like the up and comers were in there, right? Like Jennifer Love Hewitt,
Mm.
Sarah Michelle Gellar, Ryan Phillippe, Freddie Prinze Jr., even Johnny Galecki was in it. No one even knew who that was yet. he was
That's
destined for
true.
he was destined for big things. But I know what you did last summer. It was kind of a big deal. Do you remember seeing this back in
I
the
do
day?
remember. Yeah. Well, so I was a huge fan of Lois Duncan, who wrote the book, I Know What You Did Last Summer. And she wrote a bunch of things. She wrote like Killing Mr. Griffin, which is like a about a bunch of kids who think they're gonna play a prank on this horrible teacher, but he ends up dying. And like Sisters of Eve or Daughters of Eve, which was a like a girl cult. And then like this psychic one where like this house of it was like a boarding house, but they sucked you in, and it was like teenage thrillers. And the third eye was about this girl's psychic connection to solving crimes. And so it was like Lois Duncan had like cornered my heart in terms of like true crime thriller stuff before I even knew what any of that stuff really was. And then this movie came out, which was I Know What You Did Last Summer, and it was like this whodunit of like these kids, they do something wrong, somebody ends up dying. It's sort of their fault. It's kind of their fault. They don't tell anybody. And then this man with a hook or a person with a hook like comes and starts picking them all off. And it's terrifying. And then it's like, who could it possibly be? Um,
Yeah.
and it's kind of hokey now, but like it was a whole vibe in like 1997. It was huge.
Yeah, it was a whole vibe in 1997, and I think they're trying to see if it can be a whole vibe in 2025. We're going to talk about that, but before we do, we need to mix up a cocktail. So let's do this. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back to mix up this week's drink.
So, Brian, we watched this last night, and when we did, there was a spritzer bar mentioned
Yeah.
at like one of the girls' many engagement parties because
Well,
she just
only two.
loves to get
Only
married.
two.
Yeah, in a year, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot of people to want to say forever to in a real short amount of time. But anyway, I
Huh.
digress. I was thinking we could do a spritzer, and I was like, wow, maybe we should have done that. But I tell you, nothing beats a nice red hook in your mouth,
Wow.
going
Ugh.
down your throat,
Whoa. Yeah,
being slashed, right?
that's true. That's true. That's true. And the hook is a pretty prominent, I guess, figure unto itself here
Mm.
in the films, right? So you got the fisherman, I think is what the killer is called technically, I think maybe. And I know what you did last summer, but yeah, it has
He's the
that very
Gordon
scary hook,
fisherman.
right? It is like the Gordon Fisherman, gone amok for sure. So yeah, so we thought we would do a cocktail called the Red Hook, which is just a twist on the classic Manhattan. But this one's really good, and I'm pretty excited to have it now in the repertoire because I never would have come up with this cocktail on my own. But now that I see it, I'm like, that makes perfect sense. So let's go ahead and do one of these. So into a shaker tin is how I like to do mine. Goes some ice and 2 ounces of rye whiskey, a half an ounce of maraschino liqueur. Luxardo is the big brand of that out there, but there are some other like boutique brands as well. A half ounce of that, a half ounce of sweet vermouth, and then you're going to go ahead and I like to stir mine as opposed to shaking it. Not really necessarily from like a cloudy perspective. I think it just chills it down a little quicker without diluting quite as much of the ice. And then I like
Mm.
to strain mine into a coupe glass. This says to garnish with a cherry here, but I'd recommend using one of the high-end, very fancy Luxardo cherries because that comes in that dark red syrup there. It's going to look extra cool here on your Red Hook cocktail. Michaela, what
Yeah.
do you think about a Manhattan? And what do you think about this kind of riff on it?
I love this. So as you know, it last year, which is 2024, was the year of whiskey and bourbon for Michaela. As I was like exploring this palette, rye whiskey is a subgenre of that, and it's good. I'm still trying to like get into it and really develop my palate there. But I thought that this was really good. I thought it was luscious. The maraschino liqueur, it's not like cherry juice. That's always what I think that it is.
Mm-hmm.
But it is not that. So it's not like it's sweet, but it's not syrupy in
Yeah.
any way, I would say.
Yeah, it's more nutty and almondy
Yeah.
tasting. than
Yeah.
a cherry, for sure. Yeah, you get thrown off by the name there, and obviously, here in America, unfortunately, when we think of a maraschino cherry, you think of that bright red thing that they put on top of like a banana split. That's not what this is here. It's a very like rich, unctuous liqueur here, and it blends perfectly into the rye whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. Um, this I think was kind of I fell into it. I was looking and I was like, this looks really really good. I love a drink that uses sweet vermouth. It is one of my kind of go-to easy things to just serve with ice and like lemon. So I was really intrigued by this. This is good. This is very good, and it's very easy to make. Um, yeah, I totally recommend getting yourself some actual maraschino cherries or the Aramina cherries,
Mhm.
rather than like the Bing ones or the ones that are bright, bright red. You want that dark cherry that's been sitting in the juice for a while, because that's going to add like a lusciousness to this in the viscosity of the drink. And you're going to really enjoy it if you like, especially if you like a Manhattan. I think that this is really beautiful.
Definitely, definitely. And if you're going to be spending any time out on coastal North Carolina, go ahead and have yourself a spritz bar. You know, at one of your
Yeah, do
one of your
that.
bridal showers. Do that for sure. So yeah, so the Red Hook, it's a good one. Send us pictures of yours, or let us know if you have any other good Manhattan riffs out there. But now that we have that made, Michaela, let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll be right back to chat about this week's film. I Know What You Did Last Summer.
I just have one question. What did you do last summer?
Spoiler warning for 2025's I Know What You Did Last Summer. Not to be confused with the 1997 version. This is the one we're going to be talking about. And there's a spoiler because someone is killing all these people, and we're going to talk about who it is. So if you don't want to know, go watch this movie. Go fix yourself up a red hook because it is delicious. And then you should come back and we're going to talk about all things summary and hooky and murdery. Murder.
Yeah, we're going to talk about all those things. And yeah, this movie for sure, it's as much as who done it as it is a slasher, I think for sure. So if you don't want to know, yeah, heed our advice here because we're going to talk about who does the actual killings here in this movie. It's not a super graphic movie, so keep that in mind. So that's good. This was released in 2025. It was directed by Jennifer Caton Robinson, and it stars Madeline Klein as Danica Richards, the one with all the weddings, and Chase Sui Wonders as Ava Brooks. They're going to play the role of our final girls, I guess, technically, in this movie, right? They both end up making it out. Spoiler warning there. But there's another, whole cast of friends here who gets into this debacle of, witnessing a crime, committing a crime. I don't know. Little light on that. We're going to talk all about that. And we'll, of course, get into those. And there are some pretty neat cameos in this as well. And we'll get into those. Michaela, you mentioned Lois Duncan at the top. She wrote the book in 1973, and it spawned this whole world of things. Little did she know that, was it 24 years later, there would be a film, I Know What You Did Last Summer in 1997. I Still Know What You Did Last Summer in 1998. I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer in 2006. And then there was a TV series in 2021. Now, apparently, some talks of making a fourth installment of the film, or like a full-on like reboot, or like a completely
Mm.
separate story, kind of happens. It comes into the world kind of in the mid, 2010s. But it never really goes anywhere. The TV series comes out and it does okay. I think it was on for a season. I never saw any of it. But then once the TV show goes away, talks of bringing a new film come back into the world with Jennifer Caton Robinson, at the helm of, kind of writing and directing this thing. But what about this whole series? You mentioned the book. What about the movies? Did you watch I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer in 2006? I didn't. What about Still Know What You Did Last Summer? I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about these movies coming into the new installment?
Um, I don't know. It's kind of like the Final Destinations for me. Like the idea was really great for a minute, and then it got real old. It's interesting that they're trying to take a new take on it. So this is not a retelling of I Know What You Did last summer. Like it definitely has moved forward. It's 30 years later, whatever. Is a whole group of people that do a whole other horrible thing, and there's a whole other who got it, who done it, kind of scenarios. So I don't know. It feels a little nostalgic, but also it's fairly predictable.
Mhm.
That And so I don't know. It's like someone was calling it a cozy slasher last night when we were talking. They
Okay,
were like,
okay.
it's a cozy slasher. Like you know that it's fake, and so you know you can enjoy the ride because it's not so terrifying.
Yeah.
And it's not so slashery that it's like you couldn't, you know, watch it as a teenager or anything like that. So I think that it's pretty mild in terms of like it's mild in terms of surprises. It's mild in terms of content, fairly for what it is. It gets the job done. But
Hmm.
I was a little concerned because it was like, man, this is either going to be really great, or it's going to be absolutely horrible. And I'm glad to say that it wasn't horrible. I enjoyed it for
Yeah.
what it was worth.
Yeah, skipping ahead, I kind of felt the same way. I didn't think that it was really any like better or worse than the original film. Kind of save one aspect of it, and we'll talk about that here as we get into it. Um, yeah, this the story itself is kind of strange because you have this character of the fisherman, right, who's going around doing the killings, who seems very much like in the vein of like a Michael Myers
Hmm.
kind of a slasher, right? Kind of this omnipresent sort of presence here, but it's an actual person as opposed to like the supernatural embodiment of evil, I guess, is what Michael Myers is meant to be. But I was thinking last night, and in the late 90s, especially, kind of on the footsteps of Scream, we got this whole like boom of kind of like teenage slasher films. These were R-rated films, but they weren't, to the extreme. They were not, what do we get now? Like Terrifier and stuff like that, right?
Right,
It wasn't in
right.
that same vein, right? It had its moments of violence, but it was more of like this teenage thing. It was kind of like slasher light, I guess,
Mm.
more or less. So I'm wondering, I guess, if this has a place now, and I think maybe it does, and maybe this was a good one to go back to and revisit. And it certainly plays on, kind of some. Tried and true tropes there, and this one starts out, pretty much the same way as all the other ones do, with a group of friends, kind of getting together and witnessing or being privy to or committing some sort of crime, and that's what we have happen. So we have Chase Who Wonders, who's playing Ava. She's coming back into town for her besties. Is it like bridal? It's not even a bridal. It's like an engagement party, I think.
Right,
Her
right.
bestie, Danica Richards, played by Madeline Klein. So they go off with an ex-boyfriend and Danica's fiance on to get out of this party, go have a little bit of fun, right? To take the car up the mountain, and they come across a former schoolmate of theirs, Stevie Ward, played by Sarah Pigeon, and they kind of talk her into, I guess, going along for this ride as well, and that's when. Tragedy strikes, I guess, as the car goes off the road and they're witness to this tragic event.
Yeah. This is a little different. I don't know. This was strange because Teddy was being an idiot walking around in the middle of the road. The car kind of tries to get out of its way and it doesn't slow down fast enough and kind of goes, is halfway down this ravine, right? And and they do try to save that whoever's in the car, right? And it looks like it's a man who is like trying to get out. They can't get him out. That part was actually really good because you felt a lot more empathetic towards these kids. They
Hmm.
didn't just like leave him there to die. But as soon as he goes over the edge, they're like, yeah. Teddy's like, let me call my dad. He'll fix it. Like, we shouldn't do anything. And that is when I'm just like, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense on a lot of levels. Um,
Yeah.
but you're fine with it, right? So they all kind of um, all of them except Ava says, "Hey, yeah, we can't really tell anybody." I mean, even Stevie, who I thought was totally going to be like, I shouldn't have even been here. I wasn't even going to hang out with y'all. Like, she kind of finally says, "Oh yeah, we should not tell anybody. It'll ruin all of our lives." And her life just apparently had already had a big hit to it, something going on with her dad or losing all of his money or something. And so everybody but Ava is like, "Oh yeah, let's just pretend it didn't happen." And so like a year goes by, and Ava and Danica's relationship takes a hit, but Danica gets really close to Stevie again, right? And so uh,
Hmm.
she shows back up at yet another bridal shower for Danica, but not for the same, not with Teddy. She's not with Teddy anymore.
Not with Teddy. Teddy's
Now
old
she's with
news.
some other guy. What's his name?
Te-
Tate or Blaine
Calls
or
Teddy calls in his in his favor to his dad. Yeah, I think that the crime was probably like the weakest part of the whole movie. I thought because I mean, yeah, you don't play in the road out there.
Right. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good advice for everyone. But I mean, they didn't really do anything like that was that like cover up worthy. I didn't feel like. I mean, let people know, right? That something bad happened. But I mean, it's not like they ran this car off the road. It's not like they set some sort of thing up that this
Trap or
car
like
hit or
threw
anything like
something
that, right?
at the windshield. Like it just it yeah, it didn't seem as malicious as you would have thought. Um,
Right.
and so yeah.
Yeah, because I think like in the first one, like they see it happen and they like hide the body or something or something like that, like something much more
Yeah.
nefarious than what this was, right? This
Yeah.
seems pretty pedestrian as far as you know having something that gets covered up and having someone come and enact their revenge on you for sure. But yeah, absolutely. So we fast forward a year, right? And we're at the next. This is like the bridal shower kind of a thing, right? And so it's a party. Danica is there. She is there with her newest fiance. Let's see here. His name is what is his name?
I'm
Wyatt.
looking
Wyatt
Wyatt. Yeah.
is the new fiance here in charge, and Danica is opening her presents as you do at the bridal shower. This is where you get the spritz bar. I want to go
Mm.
to Danica's party. If there's a spritz bar, I could sit there and have some Aperol spritzes. That doesn't sound too bad. But what does sound bad is when you get the letter, of course, it says in that very famous little handwritten font, says, "I know what you did last summer." Of course, she thinks it's kind of a joke. And then you start looking around the room a little bit, right? So, there were five of us at this event. And there's only one of the five of us who are, not still kind of in our lives, and that is, of course, the ex-fiance Teddy. So that is where the attention is going to turn straight away.
Oh, and I love this because they go to Teddy. Teddy is like this amazingly rich kid who dad has like a multi-billion dollar conglomerate of something. So he's on this
Yeah,
boat, this houseboat, and he's like, y'all just came here to accuse me of murder? Get the heck off my boat. Like
off my boat.
he's like, get off, get out, get away from me. Like he's obviously not handling the death well. He's not handled the last year well. But he's like, I didn't do anything, good luck to Danica, whatever. And it's interesting because then Danica and Wyatt go back to her house and she decides to put a like the most disgusting looking bath bomb into her bathtub. It looks like
Mm-hmm.
dragon's blood is like erupting in like Game of Thrones style, like no 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 no
It's
no.
this is very
I'm waiting for the
volatile. Yeah.
it was very I was just waiting for like the Knights of Arcadia like song to start playing. But she puts on these giant headphones and she's listening to like her affirmations from her empathetic cult leader person that gave her, and she is totally missing the fact that poor Wyatt is being like tortured with a shark hook. It's like one of
It's like a
those
like a harpoon gun.
like
Yeah,
a
like a
harpoon gun.
harpoon.
Oh my
Get some.
gosh.
Yeah, get some. Like yeah, it's kind of gross. It's kind of gross. Like I said, this isn't like crazy graphic, but he pulls it out of himself and then gets shot again. But yeah, Danica is none the wiser, right? She's off in her own little world there in the bathtub when Wyatt meets his end, and that's not great if you're this group of friends who gets this mysterious letter and you're running out of leads. So what do? You decide to go study up on this, and lo and behold. Like I don't know, like 20 like 28 years ago, this basically very same thing happened in your very same town by like this very same looking dude. So that seems bad. So of course, what is the next thing you do? You search out anyone who survived it that first go around, see if they can tell you how to survive it. You don't go to the police. Don't do that because they're going to think you're knuckleheads, as we're going to find out
Sure,
later
sure.
in the story for sure. But that's going to bring back in our legacy characters, right? So we get Julie James, who
Mm.
actually survived, I think, the first two films. I think that's the plot of the second film, although I didn't really see that. Julie James, Jennifer Love Hewitt, and Ray Bronson, Freddie Prinze Jr. Now, Ray has stuck around town, right? He owns like a bar. He's like a local guy. Seems like he probably knows a thing or two about doing some
Mm.
fishing, living in town. Julie James, on the other hand, though, she's like, "No, that place, that's terrible." And I'm with you, Julie James. I'm like, that place is terrible. I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna go be a professor somewhere. I don't remember what she taught, but probably something cool. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably something like how not to be married to a psycho killer. I don't know. Mm. But I feel like this part, the middle part, gets kind of muddy because a bunch of people start dropping like flies. Like there was this um, kind of residual character that we learn about because Ava, she goes from really liking Milo, right? Milo was like her long
Yeah,
lost
it's her
flame, and
ex-boyfriend. Yeah.
they were going to be together, and she was like putting on clothes, looking for him, like trying to look good for him uh, during that first party, and then afterwards, she's like making out with this girl named Tyler Trevino, who's this true crime podcaster, played by Gabriette Bechtel, I believe.
Hmm.
And she ends up being like collateral damage because they go to this house. Now, if you were a true like I know what you did last summer fan, this would be when you would squee or squeal in the middle of the movie because this was like a total like Easter egg and like a nod to this the Shivers department store where one of the characters, Helen Shivers' sister, was killed. In the 1997 version. And so, like, of course, everything kind of comes back. There's very much like not a flashback, but it's a feeling of nostalgia in murder during the scene because the fisherman shows up, the Gorton fisherman dude, and tries to kill Ava. She escapes. There's this really strange, like, bird cage that lands on them that I
Yeah.
just want to point out that was probably one of the most unbelievable things because it's a bird cage, but she doesn't just push it over, which is what you
Oh,
could
yeah.
have done. She's
It was
like
probably heavy.
unscrewing all of the things. She needs to lift some weights. I mean, to me, like she took 15 minutes to like unscrew herself out of the thing, and in the meantime, Tyler ends up being like gutted and
Yeah.
hung, right?
Yeah, that's
And
not great.
Julie,
I like the bird
go ahead.
cage. I like to imagine that the fisherman guy just spent like the last like year like building this thing just in case they decided to go back to the mall, in case some true crime podcaster comes into town and wants to do some research on some things. I like to think that that's what happened. But yeah, maybe it was heavy. Couldn't push it off of her. But yeah, long story short, of course, as Ava gets out of there, as people begin continuing to drop like flies. So at this point, your back's up against the wall. You say maybe we should just go tell the authorities. They'll probably believe us, right? No, wrong. They do not believe you. They're like, no, you are causing trouble. You're a menace. This is 4th of July weekend, says the mayor in Jaws, and it's the same as this guy. He's like, stop it, you knuckleheads. You're going to jail for being a menace to the town. I don't even care anymore. And that's about the time you get your next cameo, right? You get Danica there is having kind of this nightmare fever dream, and we're pulled back into that same department store there. Helen Shivers, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar, and that was pretty good. They hid that one really well. Had no idea that Sarah Michelle Gellar was going to be back around for this
Yeah,
time.
yeah, for sure. And she looks great. She still looks like she's 25. Don't know what
Hmm.
skincare she's using, but holy moly. I mean, everybody has aged a little bit. I mean, they all look great, but holy moly. It literally, I was like, is this old footage? But it was not. It's really her. Craziness. Um, yeah, we find poor Ollie. What's that? That's not his name. What's his name? Milo. Poor Milo gets killed. Uh, and they find his body in a car after seeing the other two bodies, and like no one believes anything. And this is where the speed of plot happens so fast that you almost don't care as the audience member
Yeah.
because you're just like none of this makes any sense, but it's like terrifying that that no one has a cell phone again all of a sudden. Like in 1997 this made sense because you couldn't call the cops immediately, but here I'm like, why isn't anybody just being like, I'm being chased by a dude with a hook, someone
Yeah.
save me?
That
Like,
is that is something that never gets addressed because that is the new burden of telling horror stories
mm,
is that the first thing you have to deal with is that people can't have access to a cell phone, and that never really got dealt with here. And yeah, I mean
right.
it is a lot of these things just happening to these people who honestly, like, I had a little bit of trouble, like, other than Danica and Ava, like the guys in the story, I had a real tough time telling them apart because they didn't like have enough of their own like personalities, I didn't think necessarily, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, you go from like Danica having, one fiance to the next fiance, like over the course of like 10 minutes worth of film. So I'm like, wait, who are these guys? Is this the same guy? Why is it a different guy? I don't even know. So yeah, it gets a little flimsy maybe there in the middle, but you're just watching this for the fun of it, right? You're watching to
Yeah.
see if Danica and Ava are going to make it out of this. And then you're wondering to yourself, you're like, what's up with Stevie? Right? What's Stevie up
Mm,
to during
mm,
during all of this? And you get a few more kind of attacks in there, and Ava is able to kind of fend one off and get a good stab in there. And it turns out that something more foul is afoot, or
sure.
something is afoot for sure,
Yeah.
because this is
Well,
definitely
they
not the same killer from 30 years ago.
no, no, it's a totally different killer, which I find interesting. I mean, I don't find interesting because it couldn't have been the same killer, but I do think it's interesting that we have this moment where we go trying to like they try to search out under Julie's advisement, right? She's like, you need to find out who you killed. You need to find out who he is and what he was
Right.
doing. And his name is Sam. He was a very nice guy. He was in a rehab facility. He was part of like a culty looking church. So they go check the church out, and that is when things take a turn because I see that Stevie's friend from the first night is there. The friend who was like, "Hey, I'll cover for
Mm-hmm.
you. You go ahead and go with your friends. I'll close things up." But and there's like this really weird, beautiful shot actually of the stained glass window that they have, and then this guy shows up, and he looks real tall and real I don't know what's his name, the guy from Waco, like he looks like Jim Kaczynski, is that it? He looked like he was super tall compared to everybody else in the shot, and I don't know if that was by design, right? Or but he was also like super calm, and he was like, oh, we really are so sad about Sam. And so you know that something has happened, right? This is where the plot kind of completely falls apart for me because we see that Stevie, something's not quite right with Stevie, but we also see that something is not quite right with Ray. Now, Ray, for those who are on this ride as we're talking about this, and we've said everybody's name, Ray was an original member of the 1997 cast. He's played by Freddie Prinze Jr. He's the one who owns the bar. He's the one who has stayed in town, right? There's a moment where we see that he has some sort of injury on his hand, which is the same place where Ava like slashed the Gordon Fisherman character, right, in
Mm-hmm.
one of the frenzied fights, and she realizes that that maybe Ray and Stevie are in cahoots together because Stevie finally admits that she was the fisherman, even though she's not as tall as the fisherman ever was in any of these killings. She explained that Sam was like her friend at rehab. It's totally flimsy. You don't buy it at all, but it's the story. So, she was like, he was trying, he was on his way to drive to help me, even though they were driving on the opposite direction of town. Like, none of this makes sense, but it's super flimsy. But you're like, okay, Stevie, it was you all along. But it wasn't just her. Ray had a hand in it too, which makes sense because it's like, well, why would Stevie use these 30-year-old, like where did she get the Gordon Fisherman costume, like in
Right.
her size? Ray had to figure something out. um
Yeah, Ray was in charge of the props department, I guess, for the last 30 years since this has happened. Yeah, I guess for like from that end, it was kind of a neat like twist, I suppose. Right. I mean, it makes sense, I guess, that it was Stevie here, but it's kind of interesting then to go back to like the original crime because Stevie was very like Stevie wasn't like talking up, be like, "Oh my gosh, we just did something terrible," or like, "I knew who that was," or like, "Oh my gosh," right? Like, seems to drop it pretty quick, and maybe she's just bloodthirsty and just decided she wanted to kill all these people who she hated from high school. I don't know for sure, but I thought it was interesting then that Ray was like part of it, right? Because he was like the original like survivor, survived through the first film, I believe, obviously survived through the second film. I think was kind of one of the main plot points was that the killer returned to get him again. So that's pretty good. And I mean, it talks about how he like ruined his life, but like that was weird because like Ray has like this bar. He seems to be like well respected in town. Like he didn't seem like he was like down in the dumps, or he wasn't like like off the beaten path. Like he seemed like very like forward facing into town. So I don't know. Maybe Ray was just like, man, being on the other end of this fishing hook is better than on the end I was on. So it can help Stevie out there. So I thought that that was a little wonky, but I thought that it was kind of a neat twist that Ray was involved in it, and kind of Julie is the one that puts all that together, right? Jennifer Love Hewitt's character is like, wait a minute, wait a sec, hold on.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And then when, they finally get the drop on him, he's about to kill Julie. Ava, she shoots him with his own spear gun. All's well that ends well. And so Danica and Ava reunite together, and she's like, "I'm so sorry I wasn't your friend all this year." And but Stevie's still alive. Maybe, they're like, "Ah, we should take her down." Um, but so all's well that's kind of ends well. And I don't know how you felt about this, Brian. At the end of the movie, right before the post-credit scene, I was like, maybe they just wanted to remake this. Do we think that this is it?
Hmm.
Because, they left a loophole, or they left an opening because you know, Stevie's still alive. So maybe like Stevie can go off and escape from prison or something and come back and beat the fisherman again. But then we see this like post-credit scene where Carla Wilson, she was a character from the second film, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and she's visited by Julie. Um, and got a note that says it isn't over with a picture of the two of them, and is like, we gotta keep going, we gotta
Hmm.
get back on that killing spree horse and figure
Yeah,
out,
gotta
track
gotta
this
figure
person down.
figure out who it is. Yeah, all this time. Yeah, I mean, it kind of left like two doors open, right? So obviously it does that one there
Mm,
between Carla and Julie. The kind of the legacy
yeah.
characters of getting this letter, right? Of I still know, or whatever it said. But you also have Danica and Ava, who kind of have a meeting in like a little like mid-credit kind of thing, where they're together and they're talking about how Stevie is still alive, and they're like, well, I guess we're just gonna have to kill her, right? So maybe it's like one of those. Maybe it's like leaning on to like kind of if you've been watching along with the show like Yellow Jackets, like maybe it's like trying to like pull into like some of those vibes where it's like kind
Mm,
of these warring factions of girls, and it's going to be more of this like back and forth as opposed to covering up a crime, which kind of as we talked about, it's easy for us to be like, well, that crime didn't make any sense, but coming up with a crime that really kind of would propel a story this way is probably a lot tougher than we're giving it credit for there. So I think it kind of left two doors open. So maybe they're like, well, maybe if this does really well and audiences are connecting with these new girls, that leaves that story open. Or maybe, if this is some huge like nostalgia driven thing, maybe we can keep the old characters around in it, and just kind of give yourself a couple of ways to go with things there. So I thought that it was okay. Like it made sense because it was kind of like cheesy and campy and like teased out like the possibilities for something more that doesn't necessarily have to pay off. Like it wasn't like a big
mm,
like cliffhanger like what happened
sure.
to these people, but I thought it was fun.
Yeah. No, it's a fun film. I'm kind of excited to see how they take it. It's probably gonna open, the Pandora's box of I Know What You Did Last Summer thrillers that are now gonna perpetuate the next 5 years, 8 years. Um, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's not necessarily. I think the film was well acted enough by the two main characters, Madeline Klein and Chase Sue Wonders. I thought that was neat. I thought they did an interesting. They modernized certain things. And Um, I don't know if it worked necessarily for me. Like there were certain pieces of it that were maybe a little. They were trying to do it for shock value, just modernizing things. Um,
Hmm.
and I didn't know if it needed to do that, but now that it did, it created a much more diverse cast, which I really enjoyed. It had a lot other than being shot by a spear gun. I think it would be interesting to see if more I don't know, varied things happen in Southport. Because clearly Southport's a place where, you know, un, unknown crimes happen and get covered up all the time, and serial killers are founded. So I don't know.
Mhm.
It'll be interesting to see how this um, moves out of its own way in the next couple of years if we do get another one. It looks like we're going to, but like you say, I don't know which path it's going to take, or if it's going to try and kill two birds with one stone, as it were.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned getting out of its own way, and that was maybe my other, like, I guess, like kind of thing that I would be a little bit more critical of is this film ran like an hour and 51 minutes. I think the original one was like an hour and 40 minutes. So, it's about 11 extra minutes of footage there, and it felt to me like it was probably longer than it needed to be. It's a pretty, simple, like straightforward story that kind of got a little bit more convoluted than I felt like it needed to. Just for like
Yeah,
clarity's sake, I think it could have been, streamlined a little bit more, and that would have made it, kind of better for it. But it was fun, and it was a good time. I liked, getting back to like this like teenage slasher kind of a thing because, I have talked, on the podcast and lobby bars and stuff like that. I don't really jive with horror that much, but like this like particular genre of horror is okay because it's not like overly gratuitous. It's kind of fun. It doesn't, the stakes are not like crazy high. Like it's very imaginative and the way that it comes. So I thought it was fun, and I thought that it did a good job of harkening back to the original. Like I think if like if you would have watched this film in 1997, it would have fit in like perfectly with itself or like the other stuff that was coming along. I felt like tonally it kept that really really well. So I thought that
yeah,
that was pretty good. The music was good. It was fun. There was a lot of like modern stuff, and then obviously like the orchestral bits, more of like the horror kind of atmospheric kind of things I thought were pretty good. And I thought that it looked great. I don't know if it was really shot in North Carolina or not, but it looked really really nice as they're kind of doing flyovers of like the cliffs leading out into the ocean
mm,
and stuff like that. I thought that it looked really good. And you mentioned the acting. I thought that the acting actually, story your propensities aside, I thought was really good. Madeline Klein, who played Danica Richards, I couldn't for the life of me remember what I knew her from, but she was in Glass Onion, the last
hmm
Knives Out film that Ryan Johnson did, and she was like a very integral part of that story. She played the character Whiskey, right? There was a huge plot point kind of revolving around her, and in those Knives Out stories, I mean, that's just a full like star-studded cast list, and for her to not kind of fall in like under the shadow
hmm
of everyone that she acted with, they're did great. And I think that she has probably a pretty bright future ahead of her, and as well, Chase Dewey Wonders I thought did really good, and really overall kind of the cast did well. And it was fun, of course, to see Freddie Prinze Jr. and Jennifer Love Hewitt back out getting some glamour shots taken on the red carpet and all that stuff. That was fun. That definitely reminded me of my teenage high school days, seeing those up
yeah,
and comers. So
yeah. Yeah, no, it's I don't know. I liked it. I think if you're on the if you're on the fence, I'm sorry. We spoiled it all for you, but it's worth your time. It's kind of fun. If this is what you're into, it will not disappoint you. If you don't like this stuff, it's exactly what you think it's going to be. So don't waste your time. If you don't think you're going to like it, you probably won't.
yeah, for
That's
sure. So
that's my official, those are my official words.
that's the official stance right there. Absolutely. So that is, I know what you did last summer. So let us know if you've made your way out to see the film. Let us know if you read the original book, like Michaela. You could probably like start like a book club with her, maybe. I don't know if you saw the original movies. Let us know all that. And if you mix up a Red Hook or if you have a Slammin' Spritz bar. Send us pictures of
Mm,
that. We want to see what's going on
yeah.
there. So do that. You can tag us on all the stuff. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to see pictures of our cocktails, episode recaps, links to the merchandise shop, links to Drink the Video Games, all that stuff, that can be found on our website, which is www.drinkthemovies.com. And if you'd like to get a little bit more bonus content and support the podcast, the best way to do that is over on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. We've got hangouts, bonus episodes, cocktail chats, all sorts of stuff over there. So check that out. Again, it is patreon.com/Drink the Movies. Michaela, we have, I think, one more new release. So we have to get to the theater one more time next week. And then we'll be back to the tried and true stuff from Michaela's childhood, no doubt. So where can they follow along if they want to, get the new, get the old, all that stuff? Check out lobby
Oh
bars.
yeah.
Where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We do 2 drops a week. It is the coolest job ever to blend the movies we love and maybe don't love with cocktails that we love and maybe we don't love. But that's not all we do here at Drink the Movies. We also have Drink the Video Games. Brian works real hard to talk about really cool video game stuff. Even if it's a game you've not played, he makes it really interesting and always gives you a cocktail as well to sip while you're diving in. And this season, it's all about Star Wars video games, which is really cool. So go check that out. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Thank you.
There is a button on your rectangle that you're listening to us on right now. That is the subscribe button. You should do that. You should press that. We do our 2 drops a week. But we also have a Patreon site you can go check out. Brian's talked about that. If you really love what you're hearing us do, we love our audience members. We love to communicate with y'all. So please leave us a 5-star review, share us on social media, send us a message if you have any recommendations or want to fight me about the movies that I'm picking. That's cool too. Yeah, it all that stuff really helps all get all the Drink the Movies stuff out there, and we're really grateful for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's going to wrap it up here for episode 227. I know what you did last summer. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
Movies.
Movies.
I've never had anybody say that they got aroused because they got their friend group back together again, quite the way that Teddy did. But it
Well,
that's a whole new way of telling someone you love them. You know?
that's the quickest way to end up on the outs and not be engaged to
I
Danica
guess
anymore, I
so.
guess.
That's true. Uh,